So that's just some housekeeping for you right now. At this point, if I could, I'd like to introduce Richard Brachowski. He's one of our speakers today. Richard grew up in rural New Hampshire. He was involved in 4-H projects involving sheep and turkeys and cattle from the age of 9 to 17. He attended agricultural colleges at 3 land-grant universities. I'd say a joke here, but not everybody knows me. They just threw him out of the first 2. Just joking, Richard. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Missouri. Richard served as the county agricultural agent, extension educator for the University of Maine Cooperative Extension for over 28 years. In 2015, Richard changed jobs within Cooperative Extension and now serves as the Food System Program Administrator. He oversees all food-related programming for cooperative extensions in Maine, including programs that address food production, food processing, human nutrition, home gardening, food security, and food waste. Richard has served as the project director for Maine AgrAbility since 2010, and that is a statewide outreach to farmers, fishermen, and loggers with disabilities and chronic health conditions. Our second speaker today, I'll just take this opportunity to introduce Bree Wiseman. She works as an occupational therapist for both Maine AgrAbility and for a home health agency. When she's not working, that she enjoys working on her rural farm with her husband, raising registered Icelandic sheep and growing winter greens in high hoop greenhouses on the farm in Western Maine. So I'd like to welcome both of our speakers today, and I'll turn it over to Richard. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Candy. So as Candy insinuated, this is a participatory type of a session. It's called unconferencing, and that means that your participation is expected and appreciated. So our task today is to develop tips for aging farmers and ranchers. So that's the population we're going to be viewing or focusing on. However, if you've got tips for ag service providers, like AgrAbility staff, don't be afraid to give those tips too, because we can categorize them and put them on a different list. But really, what we want to do is generate a list for farmers, aging farmers and ranchers. So one thing we want to do is, if you could sign in the chat box with your email address, because my hope is that the list that we generate today, we'll share with everybody that's participating, and we'll get those lists to you so that you can have them in front of you on your computer at some point. So put your email address in the chat box, please. And we'll try to get all these notes to you within a week's time. And for those who view the session afterward, it's going to be archived. If you email me, my email address is going to be on the last slide, and you can email me and I'll get them to you that way. So during the webinar, be thinking about age-related resources that you think farmers and ranchers ought to know about too, because we're going to gather that list. So as the webinar is in process, think about those kind of things as well. I'll need a note taker, or at least one note taker, maybe 2 note takers today. So if someone wants to volunteer now, either by saying something orally or in the chat box, I'd appreciate it. And it's okay if 2 people want to do it, because what we're going to do, there's going to be lots of ideas flying. So we want to make sure we get them all down. You're going to put them in the chat box, but sometimes they may be too much to put in the chat box. And if you could say them orally, that'd be great. And so we're going to be starting off here in a bit. But one thing I want to do is thank you for being here today. And so if I'm going to turn it over to Bree, she's going to introduce a video. We're going to start on the same page, so to speak, and it's a video from Canada. There'll be more about it here in a bit. So if you could do that, Tess.
Can I introduce it? Okay, so our thought was we were trying to get a video that might actually show the age-related changes that we all go through. And I thought it would be a lot easier than it actually was. You can get a lot of age-related videos on just the face, but not the whole body. So this is the best that we found. So, and Dick, did it come from a university in Canada? Is that where it came from?
No, it came from St. Elizabeth Foundation and the Care Channel out of Canada.
Okay. I think it just sort of, as Dick says, put us on the same page. So at least we have a starting point that we can launch off. So I think we're ready for it, Tess.
Aging is a regular part of life, and as a caregiver, it's important that you're able to tell the difference between the normal aging process and the signs that something might be wrong. In this video, we'll walk you through the changes you can expect to see as the person you're caring for ages, and highlight some of the more serious things to watch for. Different parts of the body have their own ways of showing age. Bones become weaker and more brittle, and muscles get less strong and flexible. However, limping or showing pain when a certain part of the body is touched is not normal, and you should mention this to their doctor. Changes to the heart are also common. The arteries and blood vessels harden with age, causing the heart to work harder to pump blood through them. This increases the risk of high blood pressure and other heart problems. If the person you're caring for is a smoker, encourage them to quit, as doing this will help restore heart function. A healthy heart is also one that gets at least 7 hours of sleep. It's important to note that shooting chest pain or numbness in the arms and legs is not normal. If this is happening, have them see their doctor as soon as possible. Aging affects the digestive system as well and can cause chronic constipation. The bladder can also become less elastic. This means that you may notice them wanting to go pee more often and frequently. Graying hair, receding gums, and dry, wrinkly skin are all normal appearance changes. You may also notice that their eyesight and hearing starts to get worse. Schedule regular checkups with vision and hearing specialists, and take safety precautions whenever they may be exposed to bright lights or loud noises. The person you're caring for may also experience changes to their sexual needs. Vaginal dryness and erectile dysfunction are more common in older people and may make sex difficult or uncomfortable. Getting regular exercise can help with stamina, and their doctor may be able to provide creams or medications that will make sex easier. The most obvious changes that come with old age happen in the brain, especially to the memory and critical thinking skills. It's normal to forget the names of acquaintances or have trouble remembering words, but forgetting the names of close family members and not being able to recall recent events are both signs that something serious may be wrong, like Alzheimer's disease or dementia. It's important that the person you're caring for stays mentally active and takes time to socialize with others. Playing a word game like Scrabble or participating in a group activity like an art class is a great way to do both. Now that you know some of the typical signs of aging to look out for, it should be easier to recognize when something isn't normal. If you notice any new changes in the person you're caring for that can't be explained by the regular aging process, make an appointment to see their doctor as soon as possible. For additional caregiver support and resources, be sure to visit our Care channel.
So, Bree, do you want to add anything to that video as it wrapped up?
Well, clearly, it was designed for, caregivers looking after loved ones or family members, neighbors. But you can just you can encapsulate that to looking after yourself or, your farm family. So, I mean, what we'd like to present during this session is, let's learn what's, healthy and normal aging and what's not, and how best can we serve, the farmers and ranchers that we work with. And I think I'm an occupational therapist, and what I see is things tend to have to slip very slow. What's kind of happening. So it makes feedback there. So hopefully we can just try to work with that and try to come up with some ways to help people identify what they.
Bree, just give me a second here. Hello out there. Somebody's got their mic on. We need you to turn that off. You're overriding our speaker. Please check your microphones. Thank you.
Well, I think I was about done, but hopefully we can address some of the items that that short little film addressed and look at it in terms of how we can help support the farmers and ranchers we work with.
Great, thanks, Bree. So on your screen now, you've got what our objectives are for this session today. So there's just 3 of them really, that you as a participant will share tips for aging farmers and ranchers. We're going to address the 4 categories listed below: physical, psychological, medical, and then we put the economic, financial, and legal in one category. But about 5 to 6 minutes each we're going to do, because we've got to get through this within an hour's time, and there'll be lots of ideas flying. So that's going to be the main piece of it. Another objective is that you as a participant will better understand effective ways to working with aging farmers and ranchers, and that'll show with you know, in the future as you work with these men and women. And then lastly, you'll learn about age-related resources that are available. So those are objectives for today. So that was, now this was the video we just saw, and we got a permission from the Care Channel and St. Elizabeth Foundation to show that as part of this webinar today.
Richard, Timothy Filson commented that memory issues could be a sign of high stress, anxiety, or depression as well, which is something our farmers and ranchers are experiencing. He shared that.
Okay, good, thank you. So we're going to address one category at a time, and we've got some volunteers, a volunteer already to take notes, is that correct?
I didn't see anybody volunteer yet. Do we have any volunteers out there that might keep some notes for Richard and Bree? I certainly can try. I'm not very good at multitasking too far, but I can try, Richard, to take some notes for you.
Okay, well, hopefully somebody's doing that, because that'll be handy. You know, we will have stuff in the chat box too. And then make sure that your email address is in the chat box. If you join late, put your email address there so we can get the notes to you, okay?
And there was good representation of emails coming across.
Great, that's great. So also, I wanted to make sure none of the pictures we have on today's presentation have people with face coverings. So my university made me make sure that this note is here, that the photographs, people not wearing masks were done before the pandemic hit. So here's our first chat question. So think of the physical issues around farming and ranching. You know, consider the typical farm chores, the tasks that a farm worker does on the farm, about physical pieces of work. So what physical issues are you seeing with older farmers and ranchers? What tips might you have for them? So if someone wants to unmute themselves, or maybe, I'm not sure, maybe they need to raise their hand, Candy, and you call them, because we could have too many people saying things at once. So what's the best way to approach this?
Either way, if people want to raise their hand, or just go ahead and we'll see what we've got, okay. Folks. Emily wrote hips, knees, shoulders, overuse injuries. She wrote in the chat box. Fatigue is a big problem as farmers age. And then that was from Cerise. And then Bobby Gizzo said, plan earlier, things happen slower. Those were some comments that have come across.
Okay.
Some physical issues. Else?
Go ahead. Anybody else with some tips?
Josie shared, not all farmers and ranchers may know about Voc Rehab. This can be used to maintain employment. We've helped farmers with adapting farm equipment, purchasing hearing aids, other equipment, and paying for training if they need additional skills. And I don't see any hands raised, mostly coming across in our chat box.
I got my hand raised.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, my finding myself also is eyesight and vision. I mean, vision and hearing, because the things I used to see pretty good, the small stuff, I can't do that no more. Even with glasses on, it's hard. And then the ear sight is like hearing things, somebody talking to me, and I'm got some loud noise or something like that, as well as eye-hand coordinations. It's slow, and yeah, all the above other things said.
Here's a tip that I could share. Consider using powered equipment such as electric wheelbarrows or electrically powered wagon to move things. You don't need to use brute strength as age. I know as younger farmers, they can just bull through things, but think about how to get powered assisted tools for your tasks and chores. Any others? One thing I'd like to add too is, you know, when you're working, a lot of people, most farmers and ranchers are pretty independent, but as you age, it might be good to have an assistant, someone that you're gonna be with. You might not call them an assistant, you might just call them a helper, but it's a great way to teach somebody some skills, but it's also a great way to have some help in case you need it on the farm or ranch. When you have two people attempting a task, it's a great way to teach, but also to be safe. Anything else coming in?
Hi. Can I say a few things?
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Pat Griffin. I'm in Ireland, actually, and joined you this evening because we have particular concerns about elderly safety in farming. Our farmers are generally elderly, are getting elderly. The average age is about 58 years of age now because of the lack of young people coming into farming. And when we look at fatal accidents or fatalities, we shouldn't call them accidents. Fatalities on the farm, we have about 45% are associated with farmers that are over 65, and they tend to have a lot more serious outcomes from similar incidents that younger farmers have. One thing we see is that farmers tend to use the older tractor on the farm rather than going for the newer one because they're more familiar with it, and the older tractor generally isn't as well maintained, so the brakes or the doors, etc., can be a problem. Also, many older farmers will tend to use a quad bike for mobility issues because their lack of mobility, and they can't practice active riding on the ATV. So they can't move their body weights to keep the stability of the vehicle, and they often overturn and suffer very serious injuries and often deaths. And they're not used to wearing helmets, and they tend not to wear helmets, and a lot of people have died from head injuries. I've just pasted in the chat function there a link to a video that we produced in Ireland. We called it Older, Wiser, Safer, although the heading should have had a very big question mark at the end of that title. But it does go and talk about aging for farmers and talk about their potentially reducing ability to move, their speed of movement when they're dealing with livestock or machinery, or even talking about the medication that they may be on, which may cause them difficulty, and also the reduced hearing ability and vision. So the video is there. You see a link to it. I don't know if I've got the proper link that you'll capture it all, but there's about it's about a 20-25 minute video talking about the effects of aging for farmers. And
Pat, when I clicked on it, it came up. So I think you're good with that.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
very
Well,
good. Yeah. Thanks, Candice. Yeah. So
great
that's
to
all I
have-
have. Yeah.
great
Thank
to
you very much.
Yeah, it's about what, 6 hours difference? So evening time in Ireland.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock and I've just been called for dinner, but I think I'll
Okay.
hold on for the while. Yeah.
Okay, well, great.
Thanks, Richard.
Yes, another piece too, you know, older farmers, well, it could be for any age really, but carrying a cell phone with you in case you need help is really a good safety feature to have. And if you don't carry a cell phone, maybe develop some kind of signaling system to alert others when you need help or if you're in trouble. And sometimes even another piece around this, consider having a service dog to accompany you or assist you in some task. Trained service dogs can be a great help as well as a good companion animal. So those are the types of things we're looking when we're looking at physical issues. We're going to go to the next category now to keep us moving. And the next one is about psychological issues. What issues related to the mind do you see in aging farmers and ranchers? And what tips might you have when it comes to psychological related issues? Anybody? You can talk, raise your hand, or chat. Put in the chat box, please.
We have a lot from previous, but I haven't seen anything yet on the psychological yet in chat box. But
Okay.
if people would put their stuff in chat box, that sure helps for note taking. Thank you.
Sure, I can start off with some things. And memory, you saw it in the video before we started, that memory can be a problem as you age. And so if memory is a problem, consider developing a checklist to remind yourself of the steps for specific tasks. And you can post those checklists around the farm for easy access, or just carry a notebook, or there's lots of different ways.
Some things coming in now, memory, change in mood, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, lack of support. Sometimes older farmers live alone and suffer from loneliness. TBIs, especially with our veterans. We worry about what might happen. Poverty, and meditation was written to that at first, but now I have clarity. So quite a few things, again, anxiety and worrying are coming across. Does anyone care to speak over right, please? Breathing issues came up. Learning issues. Richard, you're on mute.
Yeah. I just got bumped off my internet, but keep going. Sorry about that.
I think I would just like to let people know that, Alzheimer's or dementia is not a necessary part of aging. So it's not an expectation that you should have. So it is, a brain disease. And so, yes, having some increased difficulty with short-term memory, but they actually show that happens in the 20s. So at 20, we start having that, where we start to lose our strategic memory. It just, our society, our culture sort of picks up a little bit more as we get older. And so trying to recall a word that's familiar, it does take us a little bit longer, but you don't have to end up with dementia or Alzheimer's. And one of the things that helps for the brain is actually moving and exercising, which can apply to a lot of other things as well. But you need to have nice circulation in your body. And a lot of people that are on farms and ranches don't necessarily have an active job if they're riding the tractor all day long, or side by side or something. So you actually need a little bit extra exercise as you get older.
And actually, in the psychological category that we are in, I believe, Richard, Alzheimer's is not considered it's a physical limitation. It's a more physically related to deterioration of matter than it is related to a psychological issue. There shouldn't be those connects with Alzheimer's.
Okay, are we getting any other ideas in the chat box?
Again, we got some lack of sleep contributing to problems, arthritis and chronic pain, difficulty realizing things are changing and that we may need to do things differently, feeling down because there are no longer things such as driving at night, nighttime harvest, feeling they cannot stop, slow down, working because there are still bills to be paid and farm to run. Are several that have come across their breathing issues. Those all have come across in the chat.
Great. Well, good work, everybody. We're going to go.
I'm sorry, someone just wrote, aging is not for the wimpy. Adapting and adjusting to a new brain and body takes fortitude. That was pretty cool.
A good one. Yeah, good point. So the next question is, sort of the medical pieces. So think about, what kind of checkups older farmers and ranchers ought to pay attention to, and some things about medical conditions. So how about some ideas here, people orally or in the chat box?
Lack of vitamins and sleep apnea have come across in your chat box. Heart, lung issues, needing reminders to take medication. Spinal proactivity are vital. Don't go to doctors due to the bills, so that'd be a financial stress. Joint pain, arthritis, cancer checks would be necessary. Hearing loss needs to be checked. Joint pain, back issues, need for CPAP machine, bladder issues. Going to the doctor due to bills, not going to the doctor due to bills. Importance of connecting with other farmers within the community cannot be underestimated, was shared. Lack of balance using muscle groups can add to chance of injury. Farmers may not feel they have the time to deal with the ailments, getting too busy, must power through. Lack of access to affordable dental care, that was a different one. Loss of fine motor skills due to inflammation, joint pain, or arthritis.
I saw that Doug had his hand raised, Candy.
I'm having trouble seeing those hands being raised. My apologies. Please, Doug, please speak.
No, I went to go to chat and I hit the wrong one. I lowered it up.
Does anybody want to voice any issues that they'd like to think everybody ought to hear right now around the medical piece?
Sheila said sleep studies for CPAP, BiPAP can resolve breathing issues, better sleep, safer individuals was shared.
I really like that social one that somebody commented. They do get disconnected a lot with people as we get older because we're busier doing other things because we work slow.
Yeah, and Pat mentioned in Ireland, a lot of farmers are pretty isolated. They're by themselves. They may still have their spouse with them, but it's pretty isolated lifestyle. And so being social is really important. It's the same in America.
Once you get depressed and there's nobody around, you just have a lack of, just don't want to do anything.
Emily in Nebraska said mental health problems, which is what I think some people are maybe be alluding to with the depression.
I think that until recently, at least until the Affordable Care Act, many farmers who weren't yet Social Security and Medicare age had no insurance. And so I think the point that somebody made about avoiding going to the doctor because of bills is a significant one. There's that gap between feeling really good and starting to have injuries and ailments and having some social support through Medicare for medical issues.
Also in your chat box, you've got injuries from doing things they used to be able to do but can't do now. Infections contributing to injuries that happened while working. And then another comment, they are more lonely due to them seeing their friends passing away. And then a medical one of diabetes was mentioned.
Medication management is a huge issue. Sometimes people you can have just reminders set up on your phone. Somebody else can do it for you, just so it, pops up a text message or just vibrates so they can take it. Wearables like watches, Fitbits, things like that.
Something on medication that I see is the difficulty with the restriction, particularly around pain management, of how many pills they can get and how difficult it is sometimes to get back to get prescriptions refilled, travel that's involved, finances that are involved. So they're splitting pills and trying to make their medications last a lot longer. They're not following the order of using their medications, and that has to be impacting their overall health and well-being.
The other thing,
And, I'm sorry.
The other thing I'd like to mention is pain, because it's one of those items that especially farmers and ranchers tend to kind of hold inside and not want to talk about very much, but it really is impactful in all points of their lives. So trying to get them to have a discussion so that they can recognize, are they having pain? Where is the pain? And how, what level is it at? Is it at a level that can be managed, or do they need to have an intervention where they really need to go see a doctor? Because if they wait too long, things are going to get worse. And we've been working on a pain management tool with Maine AgrAbility to help have that discussion with staffers working with farmers and ranchers. So it shouldn't be something that people just put up with. It needs to be more of an open discussion.
Other chat entries are all this takes time away from a full day of farm-related tasks. And someone mentioned that they work with Spanish-speaking farm workers, so language barriers can be relative. And consider signing up for prescription deliveries if someone has RX coverage that allows them not to have to travel, or remember to get their meds.
Okay, I'm going to add 3 more things here too. People ought to know the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, as well as the signs and symptoms of a stroke. I looked online, and the acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, is from the National Stroke Association. FAST stands for fitness, arm weakness, speech difficulties, and time. So just those kind of things would be good for people to know about. And then lastly, I would like, before we move on to the next category, or unless there's more, people ought to have a medical directive, what they call a living will, because you want to make sure that someone can tell the doctor what your wishes are if you're incapacitated. Any other items for this category of medical issues? We're going to move. Anything, Candy? We're going to move.
I don't see anything new in the chat from the prescription deliveries, which was a good one.
Sure. So the next one is economic, financial, and legal issues. So think about sort of like the business part of farming, the business part of ranching, and what a tip you would have for a farmer or rancher around these items. Well, so you could either orally raise your hand, or in the chat box you could go. That'd be great.
One that popped up was many people have minor strokes before major and should know the symptoms.
Doug has his hand raised.
I actually see some elderly farmers that I know of. They don't want to change their ways. This is the way we've been doing it, and this is the way we're going to do it. And the market changes. The technology changes for economically and financial reasons. And so, and there are also some legals where new rules, and they're not catching up or being part of the farming group anymore. So a lot of that changes. I think more of it, they grow the same thing over and over. This is how they've been doing it the most, but they need to look at what's selling out there and what they can do to improve.
Someone shared, start succession planning
Thanks, Doug.
early, like when you are 55.
Good advice.
not just for farmers, but have your financial and legal papers in some kind of an order. So if somebody has to come in and either help you with them, say after a stroke or a heart attack or something, or manage them should you have an injury or an accident or any of that kind of thing, it can be really hard to try and find stuff when it's spread all over.
Good advice. Here's one that might be useful. Create an information list of important items such as bank account information, computer passwords, et cetera, for family members and the heirs. It sort of ties into what you were saying. And then maybe automate some financial transactions, set up bill paying with your local bank so that those, if you do get laid up, your bills can still be paid automatically. Having a durable power of attorney for healthcare and property is also good. Any other items coming in, Candy?
A comment came in regarding not willing to learn new farming techniques and or social media to promote the farm. And then ask all farmers to do a 5-year plan, regardless of their age, taking age changes into account in their planning.
Great.
I would just comment for me
Anybody else with
putting
financial?
things, okay. I have air property is a huge problem as well. And I would comment to that when people just talk to folks about, you know, Bob, you're going to get the cows and Jim, you're going to get the pigs. That needs to be in writing, not just discussion.
Okay, good. Here's another one too. Plan for a secure retirement. Most farmers and ranchers probably don't think about retiring, or they're just, you know, work till their last day. But plan for a secure retirement by consulting with an attorney, an accountant, and or a business advisor. It's probably a good move to do that, so that you can, you know, still keep working, but maybe be partially retired or ease out. And don't be afraid to give jobs to younger members of the farm or ranch, assigning those tasks. You can still be like the decision maker to a point, but it's always good to sort of transition to the next generation. You want to have that in mind. Any other points around economic, financial, or legal?
We did get something that came in for your faster acronym, new stroke signs acronym. It's face, arm, stability, talking, eyes, react. Just a little more signs highlighted.
Good.
Came
good.
across.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then we've got do and get a will, get it registered at probate court or put property in trust.
Yeah, this is really important because you don't want to leave a mess when you pass. You want to make sure that things can transition as smoothly as possible. These are all great. I really appreciate everyone's participation. I'm going to add another category, sort of miscellaneous, or just a catch-all. If you've got some other tips that you think farmers and ranchers ought to abide by or consider, let's have them now. If you've got some ideas that you think that were not voiced before or written before, go and do that. And anybody?
It came across, I'd add a secondary plan. I know a farmer who had prepared by signing everything over to his son. His son had a heart attack and passed early. Now he has a risk of losing everything. That was a comment. Another came across was security cameras as a value. I'm going to disagree with the decision-making control. This needs to gradually move into a realm of next generation if they will be in charge. Don't create the situation where they are still under the parents' control at 55.
Okay, yes. Good idea. Here's one, meet with others on the farm on a regular basis, such as daily check-ins to start the day, weekly family talks about tasks to accomplish for the week, or employee meetings. These meetings could help with accountability as it relates to your own safety. So it's a great way just to sort of keep everybody in the loop, but also with safety in mind.
Have a good life insurance policy. Many operating loans are very large and can leave families unprepared.
Great idea.
I would encourage people to look at the value of a mediator in planning. An outside mediator sometimes can be provided by farm organizations to kind of discuss the things that may be difficult to discuss.
Here's sort of another catch-all. Be willing to take advice. This is for older people. Be willing to take advice in work-related matters concerning your health and safety. Usually it's your sons or daughters are giving you advice, and you want to be able to be. You need to be willing to take that advice. They care about you, and they love you, and they don't want you to be hurt or killed. So be receptive to that advice. Another piece I think that might be that might be applicable is, as you age, you tend to need some support, physical support. So having a staff of some sort, I mean, a walking staff, a stick or whatever. Some people might call it a cane, but you don't have to call it a cane. Doesn't have to be an official cane. It could be just a stick that you carry so that you can either use it to rest upon or help you walk. Because your legs and your knees get weak and your hips, and so it's good to have that kind of support as another piece for this miscellaneous category. Anything else to add to that? We're going to go to resources here in a bit, but you've all been great. I know
there is a comment here that says, I would encourage aging populations not to be afraid to talk about a plan for passing away with children and family members. This is an area that's very scary for all populations, but having a plan makes the process easier for your loved ones.
For sure.
And I would note that if you're finding that you do, need to use a cane staff or walker, at that point, you should maybe talk to your doctor about physical changes that are happening to you, and maybe they might refer you to physical therapy or occupational therapy for strengthening, because we do lose muscle mass after age 65. It's 3% a year. We can gain and do better. So I wouldn't just say, hey, you got to go down to a cane now. You could build up your quads and get longer life.
Great. Okay, any other ideas from any part of the world on tips for aging farmers and ranchers? How about tips for ag service providers like AgrAbility staff? Are there some things that maybe weren't mentioned that you think ought to be mentioned before we go on to the resources on aging related resources for farmers?
One thing back to the miscellaneous in talking about wills and all that kind of stuff and with family is to also be aware that the laws in each state are going to be different. And if your family has spread out and is no longer nearby and in the same state, there may be some other considerations that need to be taken into the planning.
Great, thank you.
I would say along with that, particular to succession planning, a lot of times a farmer is so busy at what he's doing or involved in his circle, you might say, of folks who are his support and such. When it gets to the time that folks are talking with other family members of what will happen to the farm and such, they may be helped by actually contacting a local real estate agent and seeing if there's another use for the property. I know that during the mid-2000s, I worked in a county that had been 60 miles outside of a metropolitan area. And a lot of those farmers were maybe third-generation farmers. And they were coming to the end and they'd be talking with their family and such. Well, in some cases, when it was discovered that the family wasn't crazy about really continuing on with the farm, you know, they were able to, those who were savvy as to what was going on around, were able to suggest that the farm maybe be sold for housing development and such. So sometimes these things can develop around a farmer. And as he's kind of focused on what he's doing in his small support group of friends and fellow farmers, he may not realize that there could be larger opportunities that may lead to something else, may lead to more money for his retirement than he could have expected, and may also lead to a better outcome for the family.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move on to now age-related resources.
Richard, you have quite a few comments.
Okay, go ahead.
Many farmers and ranchers have difficulties with technology such as email. Someone said, considering adding an admin or a login rights to accounts such as your cell phone, utilities, bank, so a trusted family member can access accounts in case of a death or incapacitation. New York farmers have New York FarmNet available to them, free and confidential consultants for financial analysis and decision-making, retirement and estate planning, family relationships, communications, personal well-being, business transfers, and business plannings. And they have a 24/7 call line. And then log books for accounts, usernames, passwords, or using Google Drive. So easy access for those who are trusted and need the information. All came across.
Great, thank you. Ready to move on to the next piece about, we want to sort of put together a list of resources that are age-related resources that would be useful for older farmers and ranchers. So Pat from Ireland already mentioned a video that Ireland has put out. Anything else that you know of? Websites, magazines, books, fact sheets, publications, blogs? If you want to orally say it, that'd be good. If you want to type them in, that'd be great too. You can have both places.
The AgrAbility toolbox is certainly helpful
Okay.
in looking at modifications with aging as well as with injuries from farming.
And you can find that by just Googling AgrAbility toolbox.
AT3center.net Assistive Technology Act program was given as a resource.
Great.
There was a comment made that it would be good for farmers need to have a hobby outside the farm. So if their identity is too tied to the farm, they think it, if not farming, they don't matter, which with outside interest, they may be more likely to retire. Safety for aging farmers and ranchers fact sheet. There's a link connected for that. Use your area agency on aging for resources. AARP also has helpful tips for aging in general.
A few years back in Maine, we wrote a fact sheet called Tips for Aging Farmers in Maine. And it's really generated this list of these categories. That's how we sort of set this webinar up today. But the list is meant for farmers themselves, but such a list could also be used for family members as ways to support and encourage aging parents around these kind of issues. So it's called Tips for Aging Farmers in Maine. It's going to be revised because what we'll do is, well, hopefully maybe what we could do is put a NAP fact sheet out, a National AgrAbility Program fact sheet on tips for aging farmers and ranchers, and use today's webinar as the basis for that. And just, it'll be a list sort of that people could use anywhere in the country or world. Any other comments, statements, questions?
Pat shared HSAI booklet on farmers' health, fit for farming, applies at any age.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just mention, we did a lot of research into farmers' health and what affects them. And after about 5 or 6 years of detailed research, we published that booklet called Fit for Farming. And it covers sort of every sort of health issue that farmers face. And, you know, it's useful. Just meant to mention it, yeah.
Sounds like a wonderful resource.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
Midwestern States Upper Midwest Agricultural Safety and Health Center with a website to connect to.
Yeah, there's 4 of those ag safety and health centers across the country, different regions of the country. And I would imagine that each of them probably have resources available for aging farmers, farm workers, aging ranchers. Any other resources that you'd like to share? Anybody aware of any podcasts that are sort of targeted to older farmers, older ranchers? Because that might be a void that someone could fill if there's nothing out there. Although, like someone said, maybe technology might prevent the farmer themselves from listening to it, but maybe family members could give some advice and information that could help their older.
It was
family
mentioned
members.
about AgriSafe, which has many trainings on aging and farming.
I'm also gonna put another plug in. We developed a yoga for farmers. They're not getting out in Lycra. We're not doing it like that, but just to take some very small measures of doing some yoga stretches and poses kind of in between chores, because you really don't need a lot of time, but you need just a little bit of time so that, you know, you're, you know, not hurting yourself and you're able to continue on with your tasks. So we do have that at Maine AgrAbility too, in a poster form, and we are not using traditional yoga models. The model happens to be my husband, who's a 6'5", very inflexible man, but he does do it, and it does make a difference. So
It's a really pretty neat poster. It's made to hang in your shop or office or wherever to stretch and to keep your body limber.
right, and
So-
where like you can do it in your tractor cab, you can do it like right alongside the barn. I mean, it's to go. It's not to bring out a yoga mat and do it in your field. You can.
So on the screen now is my contact information and cell phone, and Bree's contact information. So if you heard something that you need more information about, please contact us. If you're watching this as an archived piece and you have ideas, you want the list that is going to be generated, you can email me and I'll get that list to you. And we're going to wrap up at this point, unless somebody has something else they want to share before we have Candy wrap us up.
Well, there were a couple comments that I thought were valuable. Stretching handout for Nebraska, AgrAbility stretching. And then could someone please put the link in the chat? Came from Eileen. And is that the link for AgrAbility stretching or for Breeze yoga? Maybe both could be put there. Tess is reminding all of us to please click on the site to do the evaluation on our training today. And then the question came up for where is Pat's booklet available? That would be that HSAI booklet. Pat, could you give reference to that?
I will, yeah. If people go on to the Health and Safety Authority website, it's www.hsa.ie. That's the Irish Health and Safety Authority's website. And just go into agricultural publications and look for Fit for Farming. It's available there. There's another question there looking for the ATV video. The video I was actually referring to was the video that we produced for older farmers, which is called Older, Wiser, Safer. But we did also produce a very lengthy video on ATV operation. I'm not sure the link is still up on our website, but if anyone wants to send me an email, I'll try to get them the link to it. My email address is pat_griffin, IN, @hsa.ie. And I'll try to get you the link to the video that we did on ATVs as well. Okay, thanks.
I really appreciate everyone's participation today, and this is a great way to share information and to equip ourselves so that we're better equipped to work with older farmers and ranchers. So thank you, everybody.
Someone shared that they meditate while listening to relaxing music. Performing proper breathing exercises are a must, was shared. So with that, as we wrap up here, we'd like to thank you again for joining us today. I would assume maybe Richard and Bree would just stay on for a few minutes in case some people have some additional questions that we could pop up, and you could open your chat box and maybe help with that. This session has been recorded, and the slides will be archived in the National AgrAbility website. You can use the same Zoom link that you used today for all upcoming sessions. Next week's session is Safe Livestock Handling and Labor-Saving Devices with Susan Jaster, David Middleton, Karen Funkenbush, and Kinder Graham at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions, you can contact Tess at tmckeel@goodwillfingerslakes.org, and she could help if you lost anything in this process. So hopefully that would be helpful.
Thank you, Candy, for moderating, and Dick and Bree both for presenting, and for all of you who participated and gave some great information. Like Candy said, this is recorded, and if you please remember just to go in the chat box and follow the link for the evaluation. I will stay on for the next few minutes in case people still need to access that. But with that, I say thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Richard, I would say that I did not take notes. You had a lot of chatting going on, but I think that so many of the comments and stuff are in that chat box that would be between the recording and looking at that. I think you had better notes. Now, Emily did say she would take notes, and I'm sure she did because she always does what she says. So
Richard, I got notes, so I
knew that.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ideas. I mean, this is going to be super, and I'll approach Bill Field to see if we can put together a fact sheet from NAP on this very issue.